concept when you discuss on how to make sure that the system are sustained in your own countries. So what we're trying to do, I mentioned in the previous slide, in the 4 picture of detections, we're trying to fix capacity so that we have a complete puzzles. So it will be a complete picture of how national security detection architecture in your country will look like. Without the capacity, we would not have a program that would allow us to have the effective capabilities for nuclear security detection. So what do? In the IAEA, we just has this document approved for building capacity for nuclear security. This is a cross-cutting document, not only focusing for detections, but this is cross-cutting document for overall nuclear security activities. In this other document, which is now was just approved by NSGC last year, and NSGC is also running at the moment upstairs. The document is NST 009, Implementing Guide Building Capacity for Nuclear Security. It says capacity defined as organizations or individuals that has both competence, knowledge, which is knowledge, skill and attitude, and the capability, which is resource, authority, process, equipment and means of deployment that need to achieve the desired goal. So we define all this detection strategy. We want to do something on nuclear security detection strategy. Now we have to know what are the capacity that we need to have in order for us to develop that strategy. So it takes organizations and individuals for us to properly develop these capabilities. In this publication, capacity building for nuclear security means a systematic approach to use education, training, exercise, awareness raising, workforce management, and knowledge network to develop and continuously improve, but the words that emphasis by Alex say many times, the governmental, organizational, and individual competences. So you can see the roles in terms of policy making decision at the governmental levels. You have the roles of organizations and you as individuals that has to contribute in building capacity. So remember the discussion made by Bakhtiar from Tajikistan about how we can address the challenge that you have observed with the lack of support from the highest authority. So it's a similar concept when you develop detection architecture. Again, I have to emphasize about importance of having national detection strategy. And if you see, even for you to develop the capacity, these kind of activities also has to be applied in building capacity. We are applying systematic approach. We are using these tools, education, training, exercise, awareness raising, workforce management, and knowledge network to continuously develop the governmental, organizational, and individuals focusing on nuclear security. And in this context for the week, it is focusing on nuclear security detection architecture. So this is the cross-cutting documents that are the basis for the presentations for today. So the fundamental goals in building capacity for nuclear security detection is very universal also for your nuclear security activities. We would like to enhance the abilities of relevant stakeholders. You know, you have lots of stakeholders in nuclear security detections to assess, establish, implement the elements of nuclear security detections. This is our goal when we talk about developing capacities for our countries. And these are the infrastructure needed, which is among other things, of course. Educational and Training Institute with personnel competent in nuclear security detections. The technical support centers will play the role in nuclear security detections for alarm assessment, for maintenance activities, laboratories and equipment, and appropriate course materials. Then we also greatly discussed this on the past 2 days about developing, identifying resources, personnel, assessment of competencies that should also be applied when you want to holistically develop this capacity in nuclear security detection. While we discuss this topic, I do hope that you could relate to the presentations that we had, the discussion, the exercises, so you can bring those concepts and apply it here at the same time. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Are we okay, or are we only thinking about the Christmas market outside taking place at the moment? There will be a motivation. If we understand this concept very well, we can enjoy the punch at the Christmas market that's going on in Vienna at the moment. Yeah. So how do we do with the approach in building capacity? So we have a program that need to be tailored to your national infrastructure. So the last comment also made by Alexei in the 3A exercises is you have to know your skills, your organizations, your countries before we apply or before we design a training program. Same applies to building capacities, yeah? Because we have to know the national infrastructure and the resources that we have. How many trainings you want to train, how many people you want to train. These are varies from countries to countries when it comes to nuclear security detection architecture. So basically, it's the responsibility of the state to determine organizations that will involve in building capacities, either the customs or the police who will be playing the roles of frontline officers, whether it's a border police, whether your frontline officers or your technical support organizations come from regulatory authority or from universities. You have to know this. You have to predefine them. What are the equipment that we have? What do we need? What are the gaps in the equipment that we talk about? So most of the time we focus a lot on this. We talk only about the needs of equipment, but we forget to consider other elements in terms of the existing infrastructure and our current infrastructures that tells us the real demands of the equipment that we're supposed to have in our countries. Technical facilities. I'm glad to report to you that now when we do the nuclear security detection architecture cooperation with most of your countries that presented here today, you started to have the assessment of having technical facilities to support sustainability. So it's indications that the awareness are getting higher, and you know that you have to play the roles to make sure that the program could continuously sustain in your countries. And of course, the main topics of the week, human resources and competences. So these are the capacity building program that we want to build, and these are the resources that we have to determine in order for us to come up with a solid national security detection architecture. So talk about equipment, resource, people, and training program. Are we okay so far? Yep. Is it really okay?
Yes.
So in the previous presentation, when we defined the capacity building that we try to build, we talk about the roles of government, organizations, and individuals. I try to reflect in the designing national detection architecture. The role of governmental is really important and essential when we develop detection strategy. This is where we wanted to instill or buy in national commitments to support our roles, our goals in designing national nuclear security detection architecture and capabilities. Because they are the policy makers at the national level. They approve funding. They decide whether this is a priority or not a priority. So this is where the essential elements of your whole nuclear security detection architecture program. We've seen results from the previous implementation. If we only focus at one particular site in our countries, let's take this example at a border location. We have 4 border location sites, and we do not have really a master policy at the national levels. So the program is actually going on individually at these 4 sites. So when one site A requests for funding, for example, hypothetically, they are requesting a funding for maintenance. Site B and C doesn't request for funding, but the funding has to be requested here. So if it's a non-universal request coming from 4 sites, then how are we going to convince the government that this is something that you really need? So this is why it is important for them to know what are we doing and why are we doing and what are the responsibilities to support the overall establishment of detection capabilities. So we talk about detection strategy. Most of the time it's the responsibility of cabinets, parliaments, ministry. Depends on how your countries define who are the governmental levels. So in many of our exercise, we talk about roles and responsibilities. Again, this goes to organizationals that involved. In detection architecture, building this capacity requires us to define it under a concept of operations. So you say now it's clear the regulatory body will be responsible for maintenance and alarm assessments. So we have to specifically define these roles and responsibility under the national concept of operations. We agree that the custom is the frontline officers, so we have to properly assign these roles and responsibilities to them. So we had a discussion also in the first day. I give an example. If the custom wanted to assume the responsibilities for human trafficking, drugs, many other commercial values or whatever activities that happens at borders, why can't we introduce these responsibilities properly into the existing role for nuclear security detections if we talk about sustainability? So this is the reason why we have to be sure that they agree at the organizational level that this is their roles and responsibilities. It shouldn't only be agreed in this hypothetical 4 country sites, only agreed by site A or by the supervisor of site A. The next month he has to be changed to the other location, comes the next person. This person doesn't know anything and he doesn't support the ideas, and the program will collapse. So you see lots of equipment being left and effectively not being used. The trained people are able to retain and support retaining of your knowledge in the countries because of this reason. So this contributes in building capacity also for nuclear security detections, because this is where all competent authorities and organizations involved in detection activities will sit and discuss, okay, I'm taking these roles and responsibilities and we agree on this. So then only you can start planning for the rest of on how to perform their roles and responsibilities. And what it is important is that to speak about the interface between the frontline organizations and the expert and technical support. Because if the program is separately developed, there will be a point where you do not know where to properly link these actions. For example, you have detections at point A. The custom found them. They have a proper SOP to do that. But what happened next? I have detected these radioactive materials. I know that I have to put it aside, but then what happened? Who should they contact? So one person say, oh, we have to contact universities because they have the physicists, they can help to give us advice. One person say, let's contact the regulatory authority because they have the law. The next person say, well, we can contact the IAEA because they can give us assistance. So where is this consistency and then the decision-making process here? It doesn't happen. So this is why when we say concept of operation, it has to be defined at the national levels. So that when you plan even for training, you know that the custom has the specific roles and we're going to focus the training on this area. Regulatory authority is going to be this role, so we are focusing training their activities on these specific areas. So then we will follow with the supporting equipment and human resource, budget and funding and everything else. This is why it has to be defined at the national level under your concept of operations. This is individual, which has less, I would not say responsibilities, but I would say sort of executive responsibilities in the overall functions of building capacity. But they are the weakest link if the system is not strong enough. Because how are we going to measure the information they receive from a training program? How can you be sure that they will be contribute back to the whole capacity building activities? So this is why all of these activities, the governmental, organizational, individual has to be properly linked, have to be properly defined, and then it has to be documented and approved at a certain level as defined by your countries. For the reason of sustainability, similar to the training program that we have this week, we want to build sustainability. So we discuss here at this level about standard operating procedures to enable them to perform the duties. For example, after attending training, even SOPs for training, you attend training, what they have to do, what are the steps they had to follow after attending training. Come back, writing reports, giving proposals, delivering training, these are the steps that we talk about. Because we focus a lot about SOP for detection, how to hold the detector, how to press button, which button to be pressed, what are you going to do with that, but we don't really talk about the infrastructure that hold the capacity building itself. So this is the roles of individuals that has responsibility for detections may come from custom, police and regulatory authority as we define their responsibilities here. Okay? Are we okay on this slide?
Yeah, I want to share experience of my country in this. When we have seen that if regulatory authority is responsible of to detection of material source